Many people like yourself have made the case that these strikes made sense because Iran was unwilling to give up its enrichment program. A lot of people understand that perspective. Mr. Secretary, do you think they're any more serious this morning about giving up that program?
No, it does not appear to be the case right now. I mean, clearly we're at an impasse, and the key issues at this point seem to be the control of the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran is asserting sovereignty over, and then secondly, of course, the nuclear program. And when I say that, it's everything from the 1,000 pounds or so of enriched uranium that's there in the country. It's the infrastructure that supports it, to include the cascades. It includes, my view, we need to get inspectors back in. So to me, those are the two core issues. And Iran has always said and continues to state that they have a sovereign right and a right under international law to enrich uranium. So to me, those are the main points right now that both sides are fixed on. That was the point, of course, at least the nuclear, that disrupted talks nearly 8 weeks ago in Geneva.
This has been a long-standing problem. Mr. Secretary, clearly certain elements of the military campaign have been successful. One objective was to degrade the military capability of Iran. Without a doubt, we've seen that happen to a certain extent. What can happen now? What can the US do to exert additional pressure, and through what means, to get Iran to come to the table and achieve the other objectives?
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, while the decapitation of the regime was successful, what it did was change the leadership. And rather than put in a more pragmatic group of people, it put in a more hardline group of people. And of course, the IRGC has asserted more control. So now we have a regime that seems seemingly more willing to dig in, although the claims that there are fractures within the government right now tend to be true. But I suspect they'll kind of wrap that up pretty quick. My sense, again, is that at this point, each side is going to stick to its positions with regard to the blockade to control the strait. And we'll see who breaks first under economic pressure. We know, of course, the impact it's having on the West, with countries who are net importers of oil, particularly in Asia, are suffering, are tightening their belts. We know that jet fuel is going to start becoming pretty scarce here in a matter of weeks, and there are other effects such as fertilizer and helium and whatnot. But on the other hand, Iran gets $450 or so million a day from its oil exports. So how long can it hold on? So I think each side is staring the other down to see who blinks first. And Trump has said, look, he'll wait for a counterproposal, although there's some early reporting this morning that he said we'll give him 3 to 5 days, which would take this until next Monday or so.
So you don't think the regime is as fractured right now as some of the reporting suggests? In the next few days, can we see them speak with maybe more of a unified voice and show up to these talks?
I suspect so. They need to. I mean, the talk now is that the speaker Galibaf is more the pragmatist here. But keep in mind, he was an IRGC commander, so his roots go back. And Mojtaba Khamenei, who we haven't seen, also has a close relationship with the IRGC. So I think there was some problem with messaging. I suspect they'll get on the same sheet of music. If not, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with regard to the Iranian government. But again, the IRGC has the guns, and usually the guys with the guns play the tune.
Exactly. Jonathan was mentioning how the financial markets, at least for some of them, holding on to that report that maybe the United States was willing to give up the blockade. How long do you think the U.S. could sustain this blockade?
I think we can sustain it indefinitely. The United States military definitely has the capability, the Navy, to do so, particularly with regard to how they're postured in the Gulf of Oman and beyond that, and the ability to reach internationally to do that. Look, it's hard to see President Trump backing down on the blockade unless Iran does the same. And what I mean by that is Iran has to back off this claim that somehow the new routes will go right along their coastline in between their islands. That there has to be permission from the IRGC first before you approach those lanes. And then, of course, we know they've been trying to charge or have charged $2 million or so per ship to transit. That cannot happen. We have to return in one way, shape, or form to the status quo ante to get back to something that's reasonable with regard to a future agreement going forward.
There are reports in the Financial Times as well as Bloomberg about some Iranian vessels being able to get through the blockade, turning off their tracking devices. How hard is it for the U.S. Navy to track some of these ships if they do that, turn off and go dark?
Look, we can see these ships with overhead surveillance from drones, from satellites. We obviously have radar. We can track these ships. That's not an issue that they turn off the transponders. It's just a matter of making sure that we can pick them up and then do what we need to do. Of course, we saw the other day the dramatic footage of the U.S. Navy taking shots, disabling a ship, and eventually boarding it. So I have complete confidence in the United States Navy to do that. And now, of course, we see the Iranians are reciprocating by seizing 2 ships and took shots at a third one in the last 24 hours or so. So this has had possibility to really heat up with regard to the innocent players in the Gulf, the hundreds and hundreds of ships that are stuck up in the Persian Gulf trying to make that run or believing that they got the okay to do so and eventually get captured by the Iranians.
If the U.S. Navy has the ability to go after these vessels that shut off their transponders, why are they letting some of them through? Is that an economic decision for some partners in Asia?
I'm not sure I believe the Iranians that ships are getting through. I think we need that. Those are good questions to ask of the administration. Maybe some are being let go, but I doubt it. I think that may be more propaganda from the Iranians.
Mr. Secretary, in some ways, you're on the outside looking in now. And I can tell you it's difficult sitting in this seat to understand what's real, what isn't, what is just part of negotiations ahead of potential talks, about talks. From your vantage point, with the experience you have, what is guiding you and the way you're thinking about the trajectory of things?
Well, look, clearly, again, we have a more hardline regime in here, and a lot of what they're doing is messaging to the domestic audiences, messaging to others within the government, trying to get the word out. In my experience of sitting in the Situation Room dealing with the Iranians is they do make public statements, and then they have private statements or domestic messaging that is far more hardline. So you have to sift through those two things. But on the other hand, the administration's messaging has been all over the map as well. One day it's threatening, the next day it's conciliatory. The next day, we talk about deploying more forces, and then we're talking about backing off. So both sides there are mixed messages coming from both sides. But I think it's clear, though, that both sides don't want to go back into a hot conflict in terms of exchanging missile shots, drone shots, air attacks, but neither do both sides want to blink first. So we're really at this impasse, and we'll have to see what happens. I'm sure behind the scenes, countries, certainly the Pakistanis, Europeans, maybe even the Chinese, are trying to get both sides into some place where we can get an agreement to lift this blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, because the folks paying right now are everybody else as well, right? Certainly the Asian economies and to a lesser extent the European economies, but gas prices, oil prices, the price of diesel fuel, which transports so much of our goods, has gone up all around the world.